Chapter 41. Still and focused. The morning felt sharper than usual. Not colder, but cleaner. The kind of morning that made every step sound deliberate. They moved in formation through the long corridor toward the coordination facility, boots echoing in rhythm. The 6 rotation schedule was feeling more routine, but now there was a subtle urgency behind it. Every display panel they passed reminded them of the same thing. Day 26. Inside the facility, the whole system shimmered to life, casting the room in its usual lattice of blue. The cycles were familiar, gross motor first, then fine, then back again, but the rhythm was smoother now. Nobody stumbled in the opening drills anymore. Nobody hesitated when the timers reset. Every movement came with purpose, correction, reaction, recovery. Back the 4th rotation. The air was thick with heat and breath. Richter's strikes landed harder but cleaner. Nayer's reaction delay had dropped by 1/10 of a second, small by numbers, massive in effect. Terran, ever the perfectionist, hit 84% in her second sequence and cursed herself for the remaining 16. Bash flowed with the group, his patterns faster, more predictive. The metrics told the same story. They were improving, not dramatically, but steadily, and steady mattered more than fast. SC's voice threaded softly through Bash's head between cycles. Your predictive lag has dropped 8% since last session. Group coherence trendline is positive. Everyone's learning how not to embarrass themselves. Progress, statistically speaking. He exhaled hard, rolling his shoulders. We're still not at 80. Not yet, she replied, almost teasing, but the curve's bending the right way. When the 6th rotation ended, Jouk was already waiting at the front of the facility. The holofields dimmed to a neutral grade as he stepped forward, voice cutting through the panting air. Phase 3, Module 6, Close Combat Integration. His words drew a subtle current through the room. Close combat, physical weaponry, wasn't theoretical anymore. It was visceral. The thought of holding something real after weeks of holo feedback and dummy targets hit everyone differently. Jouk gestured to the table beside him where a clean row of weapons rested in ordered pairs. 4 sets, gleaming under white light, identical in build but purposefully uncharged. Swords, short spears, warhammers, and knives, he said. Training variants only. Weight balanced. Impact traded. No edges. No resonance fields. He motioned for the Noviks to step closer. Pick one. Feel the weight. Your body must understand the tool before your mind can direct it. The clang of metal on metal filled the air as they obeyed. Bash picked up a practice sword. Simple. Carbon composite. Heavier than he expected. The balance was front-weighted, the kind that punished poor control but rewarded clean form. He took a testing swing, felt the torque pull through his shoulders. Jouk didn't miss a thing. That's why we train grip. No point having strength if your wrist collapses under recoil. You'll see why when the field's active. He took a hammer from the rack, stepping to the center of the floor. Close palm, that weaponry isn't primitive. It's personal. Every strike has an intent, control, pressure, or finish. A sword draws paths. A hammer denies space. A knife exploits openings. You'll learn all 3. He moved with precision that didn't look like performance. Clean, efficient motions, the kind built from repetition, not flair. You will cycle through several weapon modules over the coming days. Melee first, then range, then hybrid resonance types. You need baseline proficiency in all. On the field, you pick up what's near, not what's convenient. You will not survive relying only on what you prefer. He gestured toward the rack again. But when you've learned enough, you'll find a weapon that fits, that echoes your rhythm and your ability. A ranged specialist might favor the bow. A defensive anchor may pair better with a shield or polearm. Offense and defense are temperaments as much as roles. The trainees practice basic strikes in formation. High guard to cut. Low sweep to break stance. Thrust and recover. Every movement echoed Jouk's cadence. Control first. 4 second. Metal sang against the facility floor in short bursts. Don't hit harder, he corrected once. Hit correctly. By the time he called a halt, they were drenched and silent. Jouk's expression didn't change. Good, he said simply, and returned the hammer to the rack. Now, integration. He turned toward the console, typing in a command string. Across the room, the Nexus terminals flared to life. I've unlocked your access to close combat modules in the Nexus. From now on, any of you may enter the annex and train with these weapon classes. The Nexus will record form, accuracy, and resonance flow. Learn to use them in motion, not in theory. He paused, scanning the crowd. Over the next modules, we'll progress through every major weapon discipline. Close range, range, and mixed. By the time you're through, each of you will have enough familiarity to survive in any environment, with or without your primary tools. The last part came quieter, but it carried weight, because sometimes you'll wake up without your weapon. A murmur moved through the ranks, quiet understanding. Then Jouk's tone shifted again, back to that measured calm that always preceded something big. After your coordination cycles, when your group maintains an 80% success rate, you'll enter the WIT e-portal for your first official outing. At least 10 teams, no more than 10 members per team, no fewer than 5. Choose your size carefully. Coordination will decide survival. He let that sink in. The scoring will be cumulative, based on both quantity and quality of beast fragments recovered. Each team will enter a separate portal instance. There will be no direct competition, not yet, but your results will be ranked. Performance is measured by fragment count and quality. Higher tiers, higher value. He looked across the group, pausing on faces that had begun to realize what that meant. This wasn't just training anymore. This was the threshold before combat. Your teams will be self-elected. Jouk continued. I suggest you plan now. The white portal is forgiving only in appearance. He dismissed them with a curt nod to the Nexus Annex. Practice your forms. You'll thank yourselves later. The Nexus VR Annex pulsed like a living chamber. 100 blue rings flared open as the Novik stepped inside. Bash synced in, the weapon simulation flickering to life in his hands. The same sword from the physical room, now humming faintly with energy. The holographic opponent formed opposite him, a humanoid silhouette with mirrored speed and adaptive learning patterns. He tested the sword's feel. It responded better than the training version, precise, reactive. The first exchange came quick, parry, feign, shoulder pivot, slash. The feedback pulsed through his arms like the echo of impact. Better control on the second strike, as he advised softly. Your hips lied behind, your shoulders. Fix that and the momentum chain completes. He made the adjustment. The next exchange landed clean, a controlled disarm sequence. The green tick flared across his heads-up display, HUD. Around him, the air filled with noise, the clash of virtual weapons, bursts of energy discharges, the sound of others finding their rhythm. The whole group was improving. The difference between raw recruits and near soldiers was starting to show. When the simulation faded, Ash exhaled, breath fogging faintly in the cool air of the annex. The score on his display read 78.4%. Improvement. He could feel the momentum carrying through the group, quiet confidence wrapped in exhaustion. As they filed out, Jouk's earlier words stayed in his head. Learn every weapon. Master one. The cafeteria buzzed with a low, restless energy. Tables that once hosted scattered, silent meals were now crowded. Laughter, argument, and the dull clang of trays mixing into a steady pulse. Sparters compared training scores, retold mistakes that had turned into lessons, or speculated about their first portal outing. Bash, Terran, Naira, and Richter sat together at one end of the room, each with the same unspoken thought hanging in the air. So, Naira said, stirring the nutrient mash with her fork, teams of 10. Anyone want to state the obvious? That we're a team? Richter asked, smirking. That we were already a team before they even said the word competition, Terran added, finishing for him. Bash nodded. Yeah, we stick together. They didn't need a vote. It was decided before it was spoken. As Hatto fell across the table. A brown Sparter, lean and restless, stood there with his tray in hand. Hey, he said, tone careful but hopeful. I overheard you talking. You've got 4. You'll need more before the outing. Mind if I join your team? The roommates exchanged quick looks. A shrug passed around the table, wordless but clear. Sure, Bash said. Welcome to the team. The brown Sparter grinned, setting his tray down. Name's Calen. Before he could even finish sitting, another brown Sparter and a gray Sparter approached, drawn by the same rumor. We heard you're filling out your group, the gray one said. You've got room for 2 more? Terran leaned back in her chair, appraising them for a heartbeat, then smiled. Looks like we do. The brown Sparter, Darik, and the gray, Liora, joined without ceremony, settling in as if the spots had always been waiting. For a moment, it felt like the start of something real, a formation instead of just training statistics. Then the air shifted. From the far end of the cafeteria, Zycof, the other Green Novarch Sparter, made his way through the crowd. He wasn't loud about it. No swagger, no posturing, but the easy precision of his stride drew notice all the same. Conversation softened as he passed, trays clattering quieter, eyes turning toward him out of habit, not fear. 4 blue Sparters followed a few paces behind, each one carrying the same disciplined focus that marked higher-ranked trainees. They stopped just short of Bash's table, a loose formation without command. More team already in sync than followers waiting. Jeev on orders. Zykof paused beside the table and met Bash's eyes. You're putting a team together, he said, his tone calm and even, almost friendly. Join ours. We've got myself and 4 blues lined up. Solid coordination. clean resonance matches. We're going for a perfect first run, no wasted motion. It'd be good to have another green to round us out. Bash held his gaze, steady and respectful. I appreciate the offer, he said, but I've already got a team here. Zykof's attention shifted briefly to the others at the table, the browns, the grays, the blue, then back to Bash. His expression didn't change, but there was an unmistakable flicker of respect behind his eyes. Understood, he said, giving a short nod. Then we'll see each other out there. I'd rather compete with you than against you, but either way, it'll be a good run. Agreed, Bash said. Zykof's mouth curved into the smallest smile before he turned, his blues falling in behind him as he moved back through the crowd. The noise of the cafeteria swelled again, a tide filling the space he left behind. Richter leaned forward, breaking the quiet that followed. Well, that's not intimidating at all. Terrence smirked. He's focused. Let him be. We'll just have to outwork them. Bash exhaled through a small grin. Then that's what we'll do. SC's voice slipped into his thoughts, quiet but edged with warmth. For now, none of you have abilities. What you're building isn't power, it's rhythm. The ones who learn to move together before they awaken are the ones who survive after. He didn't answer aloud, but the truth of it settled deep. Power would come later. For now, this, the work, the repetition, the unspoken trust, was what mattered. Thank you for reading this chapter. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a thumbs up, leaving a positive review or a comment. It truly helps a debut author like myself. As this is my first novel, I am still learning, and I would love to hear your constructive feedback to help me improve. I'll do my best to reply to your comments! If you would like a better understanding of Bash's origin and family. Check out my book Before the Genesis. It tells the story of Kyle and Abby and has some lead up right into this novel. Rundock Chapter 42. Range and reach the 6 rotation mornings had become almost comfortable, at least a seat, comfortable as exhaustion could get. Movements came easier, resets quicker, coordination cleaner. By the time the final alarm cut through the arena, the group average sat just under 71%. It wasn't perfection, but it was momentum. Jouk was waiting at the platform when the last drill ended. His tone was level, but there was an edge beneath it, one that promised new difficulty. Phase 3, Module 7, ranged and thrown weapon integration. The training floor shifted before anyone could blink. Holo tethers retracted, the walls flattening into long, open lanes that stretched into simulated distance. Floating targets blinked into being at varying ranges, some static, some darting unpredictably. A faint wind simulation rippled through the air, carrying the sterile scent of charged lattice coils. Weapon racks descended from the ceiling in neat precision. Rows of crossbows, bows, casters, and a full line of throwing weapons, knives, axes, and narrow-edged discs hung in silent readiness. Each glowed faintly with its internal resonance field. Jouk moved to the center of the room. Ranged and thrown weapons extend your influence, he said. They demand discipline. You must judge space, velocity, and rhythm with the same control you use to breathe. He gestured to a technician. The first demonstration began. A drone target zipped across the far wall. The technician fired a standard crossbow. The bolt hit and ricocheted harmlessly. The second weapon, identical in form but with a faint red shimmer, fired next. The bolt struck and tore clean through the drone, shielding, leaving a glowing scar. Imbued with pierce, Jouk said, an echo from a beast whose claws could shear alloy. Imbuements transform potential into certainty. Without precision, however, that certainty turns reckless. He picked up a recurved bow next, smooth and dark as obsidian. Bows favor patience. Power builds with time, but time exposes you. The tech drew and released in one motion. The normal arrow buried itself halfway into the target. The imbued version followed. Its shaft flared green mid-flight, releasing a thin vapor that spread on impact. The holographic target blinked with red contamination rings. Toxic vein, Jouk continued. A venomous resonance. Its damage persists beyond the strike. Long-range users often prefer status effects over raw force. Wearing mice down while remaining untouched. Next came the caster, a compact rifle-like weapon with a central core pulsing faintly blue. The first bolt fired in a smooth arc and dissipated on contact. The imbued shot cracked the air with light, lightning dancing down the projectile's path before slamming into its mark. Storm lash, acceleration and disruption. Ideal for those who fight in rhythm. Fast reflex, faster reload. Lightning enhances movement control but drains essence quickly. The lights brightened slightly as Jouk motioned toward a set of tables. Thrown weapons bridged the gap between melee and range. Precision with movement. Power through economy. Technicians took position at the far end of the range, releasing targets on mechanical rails. Jouk selected a short throwing knife and flicked it. The blade spun twice, burying dead center in the target's core. A good throw is an equation of release and follow through, he said. Momentum, not strength, drives the strike. He gestured to the next setup. A technician hurled a standard axe. It struck, rebounded, clattered away. Then came the imbued version, charged with shardbine. On impact, the head burst into a spray of crystalline fragments that embedded into the surface, glowing faintly. The fragments pulsed again, holding the target in place. Control through disruption. Jouk explained. Shardbine restricts motion. Others, like Echo Strike, deliver secondary hits after impact, or Stun Ring, which can disable movement within a short radius. Each serves a purpose, but every advantage has a cost. Overuse destabilizes resonance. He set down the axe and rolled a weighted disc across his palm before flicking it sideways. It cut through the air, whirring a low, harmonic note before slicing through two distant targets in succession and burying itself in the wall. Discs are for those who favor finesse, he said. They demand perfect release timing. If your rhythm falters, they return early, and I promise that ends poorly. A faint ripple of laughter moved through the room, quickly silenced by his stare. Range combat isn't about superiority, Jouk said. It's about judgment. Know your strengths and deficiencies. A heavy-armored defender with a slow essence cycle gains nothing from a bow that demands mobility. A speed-based striker with unstable essence should avoid charge shot casters. Ing matters. He paced slowly between the rows. If your ability leans defensive, look for imbuements that counter what defense can't: poison, corrosion, attrition. If your skill is burst damage, find control effects to keep your target locked while you recover. The right pairing multiplies you. The wrong one divides you. His voice softened slightly. And remember, your first weapon may not be your last. The field changes. Be fluent in all tools. Jouk scanned the room, eyes narrowing slightly. Who wants to test the throwing sequence? No one moved. The air tightened, expectation hanging between them. SC's voice slipped into Bash's mind, low and close. You're capable of this. Your motor retention for thrown object trajectories is exceptional. Masaharu's training, remember. Bash muttered under his breath before he realized it came out aloud. Not now. Jouk's head turned. Be volunteering, are we? Bash froze, then sighed. Apparently. A ripple of quiet laughter moved through the room as Jouk gestured toward the demonstration line. Step up, Novak. Bash crossed the floor, took the offered throwing knife, felt the familiar balance settle in his palm. He hadn't held one since before everything. The weight was wrong but close enough. Target, 20 meters, Jouk said evenly. When ready, Bash inhaled, the rhythm automatic. The release came smooth, clean. The blade spun twice and buried dead center in the target's core. A few murmurs broke out, quickly stifled. Good, Jouk said. Now try the axes. The technician handed him a pair. They were heavier, head-weighted, meant to test strength over finesse. Bash rolled one in his hand, adjusted his stance, and threw. The first struck high, the second low. Both hits solid, aligned. Discs? Jouk ordered next. The weapon was foreign, almost too light, but Bash adapted. He flicked it sidearm, feeling the air resistance catch, the spin stabilizing in flight. The disc cut through 3 targets in a clean arc before lodging itself in the 4th. Impressive, Jouk said, voice unreadable. Try this one. He gestured for a technician, who produced a single knife, visibly warped. Its balance uneven. Bash took it, feeling the center of gravity tug sideways. The room seemed to dim around the moment he held it. His breath caught. He wasn't in the facility anymore. He was back on a dirt path outside his grandfather's shed. Masaharu's calm voice carried in the wind. A weapon doesn't have to be perfect, Bash. It just has to listen. Even imbalance can be used if you understand where it pulls. The next memory followed uninvited. His arm arcing, the same weight, the same spin. But this time it wasn't a wooden target. It was the green Sparta. His hand shaking, his family gone. The flash of impact. The hum of the training hall pulled him back. The knife was still in his hand. He exhaled through clenched teeth and turned to walk away. You think I can't feel it? He said quietly as he passed Jouk. Without looking back, his wrist flicked. The knife sailed across the room, end over end, and struck the target square through the left eye. The same eye he hit that night. The room went silent. Jouk's expression didn't change, but the faintest tilt of his head said enough. Noted, Bash rejoined the group, face unreadable. Bash, as he said gently in his mind, that was not now. He thought, sharp but steady. I need to focus. Training first. The lights dimmed again. and the Nexus control wall lit across the far side of the arena. Your system cores will now unlock ranged and thrown protocols in the Nexus Annex. Jouk said, each of you will train with every class of weapon, bows, crossbows, casters, and projectiles. Learn them all. You will never know what the battlefield leaves you. He raised a hand. Dismissed. Proceed to the Nexus. Individual training is required. The 100 Nexus circles flared alive in waves of pale blue. The hum filled the chamber like a heartbeat, teeth under metal. Ash stepped into his ring, the sensation of connection crawling up his spine as the simulation loaded around him. He opened his eyes to an endless practice field of rolling dunes and flickering drone targets. A training bow hung at his side, its weight perfectly balanced to him. He drew, fired, missed, adjusted, fired again, each motion smoother than the last. Nair's projection flickered nearby, crossbow snapping fast and precise. Terran tested throwing knives with calm precision. Richter alternated between axes and discs, laughing every time one returned just short of clipping his head. Lead by half a breath, SE murmured in Bash's head. Your follow-through still compensates late. You're thinking instead of feeling the release. Working on it, he muttered. The next few volleys landed true. After 2 hours when the training was finished and others were exiting their circles, Bash opened the team interface. A new option pulsed faintly, collective evaluation mode available. He tapped it. The Nexus blurred, then reformed, his team now sharing the same simulated space. A vast arena materialized, open terrain with dynamic cover and floating drones that fired harmless beams. Colored arcs connected their fields of fire, each showing timing and overlap. Let's see what we've got, Bash said, adjusting his stance. The first wave hit fast. Drones split and swarmed, some darting through the air, others hugging the ground in erratic zigzags. Nair took the high angles, her crossbow snapping with surgical precision. Terran swept the flanks, throwing knives and take HD, efficient arcs that cleared approach lanes. Richter handled mid-range coverage, alternating between discs and axes that forced the drones to bunch into predictable patterns. Liora worked from behind them, calm and methodical, feeding positional data to the group as she shifted aim from bow to sidearm. Darik anchored center-right, his steady crossfire keeping the drones from collapsing their formation. Calen stayed mobile, dodging through gaps, throwing lighter blades with reflexive speed and calling out flank alerts before anyone else saw them coming. Bash filled gaps, alternating crossbow fire with low, skipping disc throws that took drones out of the air. At first, it was chaos, bursts overlapping, cover misplaced, timing scattered, but it didn't stay that way. They began to sin. See, Terran's throws started landing between Richter's returning discs. Nair and Liora staggered their reloads, keeping the line continuous. Darik's rhythm shifted to match Bash's bursts, while Calen's constant movement turned distraction into strategy. When a drone slipped through the formation, someone was already adjusting, filling the space before it even mattered. The Nexus registered it. Thin blue lines of connection formed between them, tracking reaction time, coverage gaps, and cooperative kills. The arc score at the edge of Bash's vision climbed steadily upward, efficiency up 13%. As he said in his head, her voice warm, almost proud. You're not just reacting anymore, you're anticipating each other. Bash's breathing steadied as he dropped another drone with a flick of his disc. Feels that way, he said between breaths. The second wave hit harder, faster drones, tighter formations, but the team held. They moved as a single current, covering, recovering, adapting. When the last target fell, they stood together in the soft blue haze of the simulation, the hum of the Nexus filling the silence. Richter whistled, low and impressed. Not bad. We might actually be starting to work like a team. Starting, Nair said, smirking faintly. Terran just nodded once. It's something. Bash glanced around at them. 7 colors, 7 cadences, and felt the quiet certainty of forward motion. Then let's keep it going. The Nexus faded around them, the world dissolving back into the quiet hum of the chamber. Their data walls lit up, accuracy, coordination, and reactio, and time all improving, none perfect, but all rising. They filed out together, still breathing hard but smiling now, trading light jokes about whose aim had been worse and who had saved who from getting shot by simulated beams. SC's voice brushed his mind as the lights dimmed behind them. This is how we start to hide in plain sight, she said, thoughtful. When you move in rhythm with others, even the Nexus has trouble deciding where one signal ends and another begins. He didn't answer, but the thought lingered, a quiet truth under the pulse of training and progress. Thank you for reading this chapter. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a thumbs up, leaving a positive review or a comment. It truly helps a debut author like myself. As this is my first novel, I am still learning, and I would love to hear your constructive feedback to help me improve. I'll do my best to reply to your comments! If you would like a better understanding of Bash's origin and family, check out my book Before the Genesis. It tells the story of Kyle and Abby and has some lead up right into this novel. Rundock, Chapter 43, Portals in Preparation. The morning came slower than usual. A quiet calm hanging in the dorm. The quartet woke in their unison, each stirring from half-dreams about drills, holograms, and the dull ache of routine. But the ache wasn't sharp anymore. It was contained, something they could control. Bash sat up, rolling his shoulder, surprised when it didn't sting. Taryn stretched across from him, the corner of her mouth turning up. The L's different today. Naira leaned forward on her bunk, lacing her boots. Different how? Like my body's finally getting ahead of the punishment, Taryn said. Everything's falling into place, Bash murmured. He thought of the previous night, of Calen's focus, dark steady hand, Liora's composure, and how easily they'd all found rhythm. Feels like the new additions were meant to fit with us. Yeah, Nair said. No wasted motion. Barely needed to adjust. Richter cracked his knuckles, smirking. If it weren't for pacing through 6 rotations, I'd have hit 80 by now. Taryn arched a brow. Once, maybe. Nair's smirk matched hers. And what happens the second time? Or the 10th? You don't win by doing it once, Rix. You win by doing it exhausted. Rixer groaned. All right, fine. Less. Unlearned. Good. Bash said, sliding off the bunk. Let's earn it again. They made their way to the coordination facility. The halls buzzed with quiet machinery, the distant thrum of the Nexus core pulsing through the floors. Inside, Theodorino was already awake, holo grids flickering, drones drifting into calibration lines. Above them, in his usual place on the observation ledge, stood Jouk. His silhouette was as familiar now as the drills themselves, unmoving, composed, patient. The rotations began, 6 of them, measured and relentless. The patterns were familiar, yet sharper now, movements tighter, coordination smoother. Every line of fatigue that had once slowed them seemed dulled, redirected into precision. When the final timer expired, Bash was sweating but not shaking. That others looked the same, not fresh, but solid, stable. Jouk's voice came down from the ledge, even as always. Today's lesson is one you already know, he began, or should have known. Process through your systems before emergence. But understanding and application are not the same thing. He raised a hand, and the whole walls shifted. The room dimmed. Massive columns of light formed, each one labeled with a color: white, gray, blue, green, black. The portals, Jouk said. Your next step. The projection expanded, numbers and probabilities flickering in the air. The same data Bash had seen once before in the archives. Percentages of beast tiers, color-coded distributions, and annotations that hinted at danger far beyond the grass. These are the classifications, Jouk continued. Each portal type corresponds to escalating levels of difficulty. The white portals are your entry point, low-tier environments, high population density, moderate reward. From there, gray, blue, green, and finally black. The deeper the color, the smaller the margin for error. He gestured, and the first column magnified. White portals are stable, mostly Tier 1 creatures, common, greater, apex, and sovereign classifications. The words T1C, T1G, T1A, and T1s glowed on the display. These tiers, Jouk said, describe essence concentration and evolutionary adaptation. Common class beasts are base forms, minimal essence alignment, predictable behavior. Graders have partial resonance. They adapt, sometimes mid-battle. Apex class possess fully realized cores. They can manifest lesser abilities, often mimicking fragments of Sparta resonance. And sovereigns. He paused. The word hummed there like a blade. Sovereigns are rare. Essence density beyond Tier 1 norms. They command the battlefield, sometimes commanding other beasts outright. A single Tier 1 sovereign can destroy in a coordinated squad. Bash felt S's quiet hum rise in the back of his mind. Probability of sovereign encounter in a white portal, roughly 2%. Not impossible. Jouk's voice cut through the thought. And beyond Tier 1, the danger grows exponentially. A Tier 2 greater, a T2G, is the point where the environment itself becomes hostile. Weather patterns shift, energy fields destabilize. A T2G can give seasoned blue-class Spartans a fight worth remembering. For you, he let the silence fill in T. He rasped, that means death. SC finished softly. 1% chance of occurrence, but not 0. Jouk began pacing slowly, hands clasped behind him. Some of these threats are solitary hunters. Others, packs, hives, swarms. Context dictates survival. Never underestimate what a classification doesn't tell you. The holo expanded again, showing the full portal distribution table. White, Tier 1 focus, 60% common, 25% greater, 10% apex, 2% sovereign, 2% Tier 2 common, 1% Tier 2 greater. Gray, heavier Tier 2 presence, 10% common, 25% greater, 30% apex, 10% sovereign, 15% Tier 2 common, and so on. The data scrolled upward, the probabilities tapering into the abyssal rarity of green and black. These percentages, Jouk said, are not fixed. They shift depending on nexus cycles, vis migrati, ons, and interference, but they represent the average and the risk. He turned his gaze toward the trainees below. After your white portal assessment, you will be permitted 30 additional days of harvest, white and gray access only. That period will determine your futures. When it ends, you will no longer be novices. You will serve, military, council, guild, or unaffiliated. You will choose where you stand. The room was silent but alive. The reality of their future had never felt closer. Grow your cores, Jouk said simply. Expand your resonance. Strength determines opportunity. The council sees everything. He deactivated the holo with a flick of his wrist. 1 hour of individual training. 1 hour with your teams. Stay longer if you wish. Late is never an excuse for late. The group dispersed. The first hour was quiet work, controlled, internal, technical. Ash worked through throwing drills, feeling the way each motion connected to the next. His rhythm was sharp, as he whispered adjustments in his thoughts but mostly observed. Your motor patterns are smoothing. Efficiency curves rising. Feels that way, he muttered, wiping his brow. When the hour was done, they regrouped. Bash, Terran, Ira, Richter, Calen, Darik, and Liora. Richter planted his hammer into the floor with a thud. All right, if we're doing this, let's do it right. Who's running what? Close, Calen said without hesitation. His sword hummed faintly as the Nexus synced with his grip. Liora nodded, raising her own blade. Same, I'm best at range, Nair said, her rifle folding into combat mode. Let me clear lines. Both for me, Darik added. Faster draw time. I'll bridge it, Terran said, spinning her sidearms. Cover wherever it breaks. Bash checked his loadout. Knives, a dagger, and a sidearm. Mid to melee. Versatility. Then I'll anchor, Richter said with a grin, hefting his warhammer. Somebody's got to hit the big things. They stepped into the Nexus together. The environment formed around them, a pale plateau broken by low cliffs and shifting mists. Blue indicator lights glowed faintly in the distance. Tier 1 common, Bash said. The first pack came fast, quick, four-limbed creatures with serrated carapaces. Richter met them head-on, hammer smashing through the front line while Calen and Liora cut the edges clean. Bash moved in and out of their shadows. Blades flash. Ing. Nair's rifle snapped bright trails through the mist. One wave bled into the next. The terrain shifted. New beasts arrived. Larger. Faster. Meaner. T1G, Calen called. Their rhythm didn't falter. Darik's arrow slowed the flanks. Terran's pistol stitched controlled bursts through openings. Bash landed a knife throw that pinned a creature mid-lunge. Richter crushed it before it hit the ground. By the time they reached T1A, the simulation had them surrounded. It should have broken them apart, but they adapted instead. Liora and Calen held the front. Nair and Darik coordinated crossfire. Terran and Bash moved between them, covering reloads and blind angles. When the final apex went down, even Jouk's observers would have been impressed. Then the Sovereign appeared. It was fast, too fast for something that big. The ground fractured under each stride. The team held formation, but it pressed them hard, tearing through their lines. Calen's sword flashed across the beast's flank. Liora dove in with a parry, and Richter's hammer came down like a thunderclap. The Sovereign barely staggered. It turned, faster than something that massive should have moved, and the counterblow sent Richter sprawling. Nair's rifle round sparked uselessly against its hide. Karen's pistols burned bright lines through the haze but couldn't slow it. Fall back, Bash barked, sliding in to cover Richter's retreat. The creature's roar hit like pressure, the air rippling around it. They regrouped, formed a half circle, and tried to press again. Timed strikes, feints, coordination, but the gap in power was too wide. Every attack landed felt answered by one that shook their footing. When its next strike came, the simulation cracked white, cutting out just before impact. The Sovereign still stood, breathing heavy and radiant as the world dissolved around it. The team blinked into silence, back in the Nexus chamber. No one spoke for a long moment. The scoreboard floated above them: 73% efficiency, 0% completion. Richter exhaled, bent over his hammer. So that's what losing feels like again. Nair gave a thin smile. Could have been worse. We didn't fall apart. Could have been better, Terran said. Bash nodded once. Next time, we adjust. You would not have survived that encounter in a real portal, as he said, her tone soft but not critical. But your formation held longer than project. Statistically, that's progress. Progress that still dies. He thought back, breathing out. Every model starts that way, she answered. You learn where the limit is, and then you move it. The Nexus lights dimmed as they stepped out. Up on the observation platform, Jouk stood motionless, watching the after-images of their failed sovereign fight replay in data streams. As the seven passed beneath him, Ash swore he saw it, a brief, almost invisible curl of expression at the edge of Jouk's face. Not satisfaction, exactly, but recognition. Thank you for reading this chapter. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a thumbs up, leaving a positive review or a comment. It truly helps a debut author like myself. As this is my first novel, I am still learning, and I would love to hear your constructive feedback to help me improve. I'll do my best to reply to your comments! If you would like a better understanding of Bash's origin and family. Check out my book Before the Genesis. It tells the story of Kyle and Abby and has some lead up right into this novel. Rundock Chapter 44. Maps and memories. The dorm lights rose slowly, a dull amber glow that tried, and failed, to feel like morning. Day 29. It was becoming hard to tell the difference between sleep and wake. Each day bled into the next. Training, instruction, drills, fatigue, recovery, repeat. Bash sat on the edge of his bunk, elbows on his knees, head in his hands, staring at the faint scuff marks on the floor that hadn't been there a week ago. Taryn broke the silence. RSD. Day 29, she said, voice flat but edged with disbelief. Feels like 200. Richter groaned from the top bunk, one leg hanging off the side. If I hear the word rotation again, I'm walking into a portal with a blindfold. Nair smirked, pulling on her boots. You tripped before you got there. Still worth it, he muttered. Despite the easy sarcasm, there was truth beneath it. The exhaustion wasn't physical anymore. It was mental, the kind that pressed against the inside of your skull and whispered that progress didn't matter. They all knew better, but knowing didn't make it easier. Bash exhaled through his nose, rubbing his temples. We've come too far to burn out now. Yeah, Taryn said, tying her hair back in a sharp knot. Still, I get it. The grind's starting to eat at me too. Nair stood, stretching until her back popped. It's supposed to, she said simply. That's the point. They're training us to think clearly when we can't stand another second of it. Richter sat up, hair wild, grin weak. So masochism as a teaching philosophy. Got it. Taryn rolled her eyes, but even that looked slower today. Bash stood, stretching his shoulders, and forced some energy into his tone. We're better than we were. You can feel it. Calen, Darik, and Liora. They fit in like they were made for this team. Taryn nodded. They picked up fast. I didn't have to correct Calen once in the last session. Naira added, and Liora tracks openings like she's got predictive code running. Makes my job easier. Richter grinned faintly. See, I told you adding browns and a gray woe. I'll balance us out. Good muscle, less ego. Less, Nair said pointedly. He laughed. All right, fine. Different ego. For a moment, they were all quiet, tired smiles, shared frustration, a sense of endurance. Then Bash said softly, we push now so it ends sooner. That's how this works. No one argued. The coordination facility buzzed like a living machine when they arrived. The blue holo tethers were already active, humming with the kind of energy that made the air feel thinner. Jouk was in his place above them, standing in the glass observation ring with his hands folded behind his back, immovable, unreadable, and eternal. 6 rotations, the same rhythm as always, but something in it had changed. Where once there had been chaos, now there was form. Their transitions were cleaner, breath, control tighter, footwork steady. They weren't fighting the drills anymore. They were living them. Even the exhaustion had transformed. It no longer felt like pain, more like pressure. Familiar, predictable, manageable. By the final sequence, Bash's muscles moved without hesitation. Every pivot and strike came with precision that had taken almost a month to carve into muscle memory. The last bell sounded, and silence rolled through the room. The whole wall scrolled with numbers in real time, rows of data stabilizing, then freezing into their result. Nova cohort averaged 77.1% success rate. Richter dropped to a knee, gasping between grins. 77, he said. Not bad for half-dead rookies. Taryn leaned against the rail, hair plastered to her face. Still not 80. Close. Enough to taste it, Nair replied, voice steadier than she looked. Bash just nodded, watching the number burn into his vision. Close enough to feel real. Jouk's voice cut through the cooling air. Progress acknowledged. Maintain trajectory. He descended from the observation deck, rare enough that the chatter stopped immediately. His boots hit the floor with quiet precision. Today's instruction, he said, is navigation. The lights dimmed. Holo panels flared to life along the walls and floor, the space transforming into a grid of shifting lines, circles, and glowing spheres. Jouk moved between them, his movements deliberate. Map reading, he began. Something each of your system cores contains, but comprehension fades without application. You will need this skill soon. With a gestu, the hologram expanded, showing a planetary surface divided into layered regions, forests, deserts, ravines, ruined cities. Tiny glyphs flickered across the map, pulsing like heartbeats. When you enter a portal, he said, a corresponding map loads directly into your system core. It is interactive, tied to your perspective and neural sync. It will adapt as you explore, marking paths, resource zones, and combat data in real time. SC's voice hummed at the edge of Bash's thoughts. The mapping protocols are based on aggregate memory recordings, 94% accuracy within one standard deviation. Bash didn't respond. Jouk's tone never changed. Understand this. Maps are not guarantees. They are projections based on past cycles, previous Sparta teams, and known beast migrati. You may enter a region expecting a single predator and find an entire hive. You may prepare for a pack and face nothing. Prediction is a tool, not a promise. He stepped onto the holo map itself, walking across glowing canyons that shifted beneath his feet. This is what a white portal terrain looks like: clean, patterned, layered, predictable. But even here, the unexpected happens. You adapt or you die. He paused, then with a flick of his hand zoomed the map out. The room darkened. The planetary display dissolved into a sea of stars. This, he said, is the Nexus Atlas. Gasps rippled quietly through the cohort. The hologram now stretched across the entire chamber, a galaxy mapped in colored light. Thousands of portal markers shimmered across the void: white, gray, blue, GR, ink, and black, each pulsing like constellations of controlled chaos. You're here, Jouk said, tapping a glowing white cluster near the outer rim of the spiral. This marker represents the Nexus Arc, our vessel. The hologram expanded outward, showing the Arc as a sleek ringed structure drifting through the spiral arm, its path traced by a faint ribbon of blue light. There are no hubs, Jouk continued. No training worlds or anchor stations. The Arc is self-contained. We travel through open space, crossing between fueling sectors as we prepare the next generation. He gestured again, and smaller points of light rippled into existence, dozens of glowing spheres scattered across the galactic map. These, he said, are quantum transport portals, QTP. They are the gateway Spartans used to enter planetary surfaces, resource fields, and beast territories. Every world we harvest, every anomaly we explore, every essence we collect begins through one of these. The hologram zoomed closer, showing lines of faint energy connecting each QTP to known systems. The Arc doesn't travel through these, Jouk explained. We dispatch teams through them. Each portal links to a specific environment, white to black as we discussed yesterday, tiered by risk and density. When you deploy, it will be through one of these points. It will be your bridge between survival and reclamation. A few distant red beacons blinked at the edge of the display, colder and sharper than the others. Those, Jouk said, are exploratory routes. Uncharted QTP still under observation. Some lead to RC-rich systems, others to dead worlds or unstable dimensions. We send scouts to study them before authorizing full transit. He gestured toward the cluster again. Exploratory access is restricted to upper guild Spartans and authorized command missions. The holo rotated, casting soft crimson light across their faces. The red zones pulsed faintly, slow, deliberate, alive. Bash couldn't look away. They were just dots, indistinguishable from the rest. Yet something about the rhythm in their flicker made his pulse tighten. SC murmured, "Those are exploratory designations. The same class of assignment your world was under when the detachment arrived." His jaw locked. "So Earth is on that map." "Yes," she said quietly. "It's already marked. The Spartans that attacked were a scout team. Early reconnaissance. Their data never returned to the Nexus, but until the system registers the loss, your planet remains flagged for future harvest. When the report finally propagates, the command network will reissue the bounty. So they are coming back." "Eventually," she replied, "when the Nexus reconciles the missing data, it will treat the world as an incomplete objective, and incomplete objectives don't get forgotten." Bash's throat felt dry. The map still glowed before them, beautiful, immense, and utterly merciless. As the map continued to gloat across Bash's eyes, all he saw was red. "Don't," SE murmured. "Don't ask. Don't draw attention to it. I have to know more," he thought. "Then let me find a way." Quietly, He forced himself to breathe evenly. Jouk finished his lecture standing at the center of the galaxy projection, the universe revolving faintly around him. Portals are paths, maps are guides, but the only constant is change. Adaptation is your true compass. Remember that when the worlds start trying to kill you. With the final motion, he shut the display down. 1 hour of individual drills, 1 hour of team coordination. Dismissed. Bash threw himself into solo training, but his rhythm was off. Every movement felt heavier. His mind wasn't on the drills. It was still in the red. You're missing cues, SE said softly. Hand-eye timing down 5%. Neural latency up 7. Noted, he muttered. Your focus is fragmented. Just let me work. She fell silent, but he could still feel her concern humming beneath the words. When the hour ended, he regrouped with the team. Their energy was good, better than his. Rixer was laughing about a misaligned Warhammer strike that had shattered one of the training barriers. Terran was teasing him about overcompensating. Nair analyzing their patterns from the previous day. But Bash wasn't fully there. He tried to hide it. Moving through formations, working through tactics, firing drills. But his mind kept drifting to the hologram of the Nexus Atlas, to those red lights burning like scars. His timing slipped. His form broke once, then twice. Terran caught him missing a mark and frowned. You good? He forced a breath. Yeah, just tired. Mentally shot, I think. Richter gave him a pat on the shoulder with a grin. We're all shot, Bash. You just show it less. Not today, he said. They didn't push it, even below high, as usual standard. He was still one of the top 5 performers in the Nova cohort, but the difference was there, and they all saw it. When the simulation ended, the numbers glowed pale blue across the data wall, minor dip in coordination, small drops in accuracy. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to matter. That night, the dorm was quiet. The hum of the ship filled the silence. Bash lay staring at the ceiling, replaying the map in his head. White, gray, blue, green, black and red points like blood on the void. SC, he said. Her presence came immediately, warm and alert. You're not sleeping again. I need you to get that map, he said quietly. All of it. Coordinates, regions, names, everything Jouk showed. You understand that's restricted above Nova clearance, she said gently. I don't care. I need to see it for myself. There was a pause, not hesitation, thought. If I can access the Atlas feed during synchronization, I may be able to copy the visual structure without tripping an audit flag. But I'll need to run the sampling through low-priority cache lanes. That will take time. Can you do it safely? If I limit myself to public layer telemetry, yes. If I dig deeper, it depends on how closely the Nexus monitors this cycle. He turned onto his side, eyes half open. Then make it your priority. Only if it doesn't compromise you. Her tone softened. Understood. I'll look for an opening when we sync tomorrow. If I can get a copy of the Atlas sectors, you'll know first. He nodded faintly. The room's quiet hum mixed with the thud of his heartbeat. You're chasing GH. Us, she whispered. They are not ghosts, he thought. They are answers. SC didn't reply immediately. When she finally did, her voice was low, almost human. Then we'll find them. The lights dimmed to black, and Bash let his eyes close, the map still burning behind them, red lights flickering in the dark. Thank you for reading this chapter. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a thumbs up, leaving a positive review or a comment. It truly helps a debut author like myself. As this is my first novel, I am still learning, and I would love to hear your constructive feedback to help me improve. I'll do my best to reply to your comments. If you would like a better understanding of Bash's origin and family, check out my book Before the Genesis. It tells the story of Kyle and Abby and has some lead up right into this novel. Grundok, chapter 45. Focus and fire. The dorm lights rose in their usual slow gradient, amber bleeding into white. For the first time, Bash didn't feel the weight of fatigue pressing on his chest when he woke. His body moved before thought, routine taking over. Swing legs, plant feet, stand. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the ventilation grid. He sat on the edge of his bunk, elbows on his knees, eyes fixed on the far wall. Taryn noticed first. You're quiet, she said, tugging her hair into a knot. More than usual. Rixer leaned over the side of the top bunk. Everything okay? Bash didn't look up. Yeah, just realized I need to focus harder on the mission. Nair's brow furrowed slightly, but he didn't press. They all felt it, the calm tension rolling off him, a silence that wasn't exhaustion but something sharper, the kind forged in memory. The red dots from the Atlas flickered behind his eyes, pulsing like tiny heartbeats. And behind them, Emily's face, smiling, fading, gone. The sound that followed was always the same, the pulse of green light and the echo of everything he'd lost. The corridor outside was quiet when they stepped into it. Their boots struck the alloy floor in perfect rhythm. By now, the path to the coordination facility was muscle memory, a straight walk, 4 left turns, an ascent, a scan. The door recognized their resonance signatures and parted with a hiss. Inside, the air felt alive. Blue lattice light shimmered across the arena as hundreds of Sparta filed into formation. Jouk stood on the observation platform above them, hands clasped behind his back. 6 rotations, his voice carried. Begin. The hum of hologrids filled the chamber. Bash moved before the timer's first pulse faded. Each strike, each pivot, each breath was deliberate. The tremor that had once lived in his movements was gone. Every motion cut through the air like it belonged there. Nair's rhythm sharpened beside him, her blade singing through the holographic markers. Rixer's balance no longer wavered, and Terran's timing matched the pulse of the grid exactly. By the 4th cycle, the room was a storm of motion. Breath, motion, impact. Everything almost seemed synchronized. The exhaustion that had once broken them now pushed them forward. Bash's focus never wavered. Every rotation was Emily. Every strike, a promise. When the 6th alarm finally sounded, the entire chamber froze. The holoscreen shimmered, compiling the results in rows of flickering data before locking into place. Cohort average, 79.2%. A low murmur rippled through the crowd, half disbelief, half relief. Rixer wiped sweat from his forehead, grinning weakly. We're almost there. Eddie or die trying, Nair said, breathless but smiling. Terran leaned on her knees, nodding once. No one's dying. Not yet. Bash didn't answer. His gaze stayed fixed on the ceiling lights, jaw tight, focus unbroken. Jouk's boots echoed on the alloy floor as he descended from the observation ledge. The hologrids folded inward, forming a sphere of soft light that rippled like a pulse. Phase 3, Module 8, he said, voice steady but edged with something earned. Ability theory. The light fractured into drifting sigils, rings, symbols, and crystalline patterns orbiting slowly around him. Each one glowed with its own heartbeat. Every Sparta carries resonance, he began, a signature that shapes how your core interacts with essence. You don't choose it any more than you choose the color of your shell, but understanding it, that decides whether you live long enough to make it matter. He lifted a hand. The first ring brightened into a swirl of red, blue, white, and gold. Fire, wind, water, mineral, Jouk said. They are the foundation. You'll see more of these than any other in the first portal cycles. A quartet of figures shimmered around him, each channeling an element. Air light spilled across the trainee's armor. Fire burns fast, unpredictable, hungry. Those who wield it tend to think speed is safety. It isn't. Lose control of your temper or your focus and it'll consume the air you're standing in. Wind is finesse, motion, range, and precision. It's beautiful to watch when done right, but it scatters under pressure. You miss one calculation, and half your attack diffuses into nothing. Water's the patient one. It adapts, seeps into cracks others can't see. The strongest water users I've trained fought like tacticians, not brawlers. They wait, then drown you in your own overextension. But don't mistake patience for limitation. A true water resonance manipulates the element in all its forms, liquid, vapor, and ice. They can shift states mid-sequence, flood a corridor, turn mist to blades, or freeze the air itself. Temperature, pressure, and phase are just tools to them. Against someone like that, defense doesn't mean blocking. It means surviving long enough to find ground that isn't theirs. Mineral, stone, metal, crystal, is endurance given form. It builds fortresses, shields, armor, and weapons. But remember, rigidity can be as fatal as weakness. When mineral breaks, it breaks completely. He let the 4 holograms fade. Together, these 4 set the battlefield's rhythm. Learn how they move, even if they are not yours. An elemental Sparta defines the fight before it starts. Physical resonances silver light took their place, arcs shaped like muscle fibers flexing in air. Physical affinities, Jouk continued. They don't look impressive at first. No flames, no storms. But if you've ever seen one up close, you'll never forget it. He gestured toward the projection, 3 silhouettes in motion. Speed users live by seconds. They move so fast they forget time exists until it hits them back. I once saw one burn his own joints out of rhythm. His body couldn't keep up with his core. Force focuses on impact, momentum, and area control. A good force user ends battles in a single exchange. A bad one collapses the field around their allies. Strength is exactly what it sounds like. Raw density. Simple, effective, and dangerous when arrogance replaces discipline. He hesitated, a rare flicker of thought. And then there's life steal. Essence transference through violence. I've seen it save lives and erase them. Every hit feeds the user. Every overreach drains the soul. It's power that doesn't ask permission. Essence resonance's blue-white filaments webbed across the chamber, humming faintly with static. Jouk's expression didn't change, but his tone softened with respect. Essence manipulation sits between body and thought. Lightning, energy, soul. He traced the air. Lightning crackled between his fingertips, restrained but alive. Lightning's the temperamental one. It obeys confidence, not caution. Those who hesitate fry themselves before the enemy. But when it's mastered, he gave a small shake of his head. Lightning rewrites reaction time itself. The projection shifted to a figure forming a translucent barrier of light. Energy manipulation, shaping raw essence. Beams, fields, shields, resonating, e-bursts. It's art in math. You fail the equation, you burn your own circuits. The last hologram flickered, its outline indistinct. Soul rend, he spoke the term quietly. You won't see many. It strikes through essence directly, bypassing flesh. Every recorded wielder ended the fight, and sometimes themselves. Control the soul, or controls you right back. Defender and support resonances, the lights turn gold and green, spreading in calm concentric ripples. These save lives, he said simply, and sometimes they cost them. Thorns converts damage into retaliation. The more you're hit, the more you punish, but it demands proximity. You invite pain to give it back. Reflective shell rebounds energy at a distance. It's elegant but fragile. One overload and the mirror shatters inward. Durability is straightforward fortification. Your body becomes your shield. Simple, effective, and always needed. He shifted to a gentler tone. Then there's support, healing resonance, essence redistribution, regeneration. It feels like mercy until you burn yourself empty to keep others standing. Its counterpart, decay or duty, damage over time, comes from the same foundation. Both alter cellular stability. One repairs it, one unravels it. I've trained healers who turned into poisoners when they lost control. Manipulation resonance as the room dimmed further. Deep violet light cut through the haze. Now we reach the boundaries of what should exist. Jouk said, time, space, gravity. He said each like a verdict. I've seen one time manipulator. Once, she accidentally slowed Ever, hitting around her to a crawl, herself included. When it ended, her body aged 3 years and 30 seconds. He turned his gaze toward the rows of trainees. Space manipulation folds distance. Short range only, where you'll lose orientation and reappear in pieces. Gravity is control of weight, pull, and direction. It's the rarest of the three, and the most brutal. Done well, it pins entire squads in place. Done poorly, it implodes the user. He let that hang, unsoftened. If you ever face one, run first, analyze later. Self and summoner resonances, the light changed again. Shadows overlapping shadows. Stealth types rely on deception. Blink step compresses the space between movements. A flicker, a vanish, a reappear. Still veil alters frequency perception. True invisibility to most sin. Soars, but neither lasts long. Neural strain rises exponentially with duration. He swiped a hand through the projection, revealing a pulsing amber sigil. Summoner resonance. It doesn't create from nothing. It binds what's already been taken. The construct is born from the beast fragments you harvest, shaped by your core's interpretation of that essence. Sometimes it manifests as a creature, sometimes a weapon, sometimes something harder to define. It isn't illusion. It's resonance taking form. The stronger the bond between you and the fragment, the stronger the manifestation. But if your core wavers, if the essence resists, the construct turns on its source. Strong bond, strong ally. Weak bond, and it devours its maker. Jouk let the holograms fade until only faint amber light remained. Ed, swirling gently through the air. Now, he said, voice even but carrying across the hall, let's talk about what's common and what's not. He paced slowly, hands clasped behind his back, his eyes scanning the rows of attentive Sparters. Most of you, when your cores awaken, will find yourselves among the elemental or physical classes. They form the backbone of every division, reliable, repeatable, effective. You'll see fire, wind, water, mineral, speed, force, strength, the abilities that build squads and hold front lines. There's no shame in that. A well-trained elemental will always outlast an unstable rarity. The hologram flickered, showing the faint silhouettes of less familiar sigils. Essence types, lightning, energy manipulation, and the like sit just above them in probability. They are more volatile, but manageable. The defender and support branches, thorns, shell, durability, healers, decay, are less frequent still, but essential to every team. Don't underestimate their importance. An army without balance collapses faster than it kills. He stopped beside the holo console, entering a command. New symbols shimmered into view, deeper hues, rare patterns, each one pulsing like a heartbeat. Then come the rarities, abilities you'll read about long before you ever see one. Life steal, soul rend, gravity, time, space, powers that bend the laws we live by. They appear once in millions of awakenings, and most don't survive long enough to master them. Control those, and you reshape battlefields. Lose control, and you write your own death. The air round high, dimmed further, leaving only 3 golden sigils glowing faintly. Beyond them are the hybrid arts, he said, imbuing, alchemy, and the anomaly known as reincarnate. He pointed to the first sigil. Imbuing is the art of resonance and fusion. It's how we craft weapons that breathe with their wielders. An imbuer strengthens what already exists, armor, blades, even the walls around you. They make others stronger, but every improvement drains their own essence. True masters leave their signature in everything they touch. The second sigil pulses with layered hues of green and silver. Alchemy just as rare. It converts essence into tangible matter, vials, serums, enhancers. The best alchemists supply entire campaigns, translating harvested energy into endurance. They are scientists as move CH as soldiers. Precision is their survival. He turned to the final sigil, a faintly burning ring, its glow flickering in steady rhythm. Reincarnate resonance, Jouk said quietly. It's not a technique, it's an event, the return of a core after death. When it happens, the body reforms around the retained resonance pattern. The memories come fractured, distorted, sometimes not at all. The council studies it, but no one truly understands it. Some call it blessing, others curse. What's certain is that every reincarnate comes back changed. They always do. He straightened, the lights reflecting faintly in his eyes. So remember this, he said. The common are the bones of our species. The rare are its scars. Elementals build empires. Physicals defend them. Essence and support tights shep. Their borders. Hybrids like imbuers and alchemists sustain the fight. And the few who come back from death, reincarnates, remind us why control matters more than power. The projections folded into a single golden spiral hovering between Jouk and the trainees. When your core awakens, he said, you'll feel it choose. That moment defines your trajectory. Your system core will explain compatibility, how your resonance pairs with others. Some merge perfectly, others destroy each other on contact. Fire feeds speed, lightning complements force, but gravity and time, you combine those, you'll end up a crater. He took a step forward, his voice lower but still carrying through the room. Essence harvesting during portal operations fuels growth. Every kill, every survival moment adds data. To your core, you will feel it stretch, evolve, ask for more. Feed it wisely. Strength without restraint is noise. He let the last projection dim into nothing. Rarity is a distraction, he said at last. Control is the real measure. A common resonance, mastered, will outlive a rare one wielded carelessly. He folded his hands behind his back again. That's all for today. Individual training, then team rotations. You know what to do. The facility broke into movement again. Bash stayed behind a moment longer, letting the words echo through him. Power defines what you are. He wasn't sure if that comforted or terrified him. Then he moved. The next 2 hours were a blur of drills, balance grids, reactive strikes, coordination spirals. Bash's form flowed tighter than ever before. Even C's guidance had gone quiet until halfway through the final rotation. You're exceeding projection thresholds. He caught a target drone mid-swing and drove it into the floor, then raised the thresholds. Statistical outliers rarely sustain. Then I'll keep being one. She didn't answer. The silence felt like approval. Across the hall, Richard barked laughter as one of his hammered drills finally scored full contact. Nayer's blade work traced arcs of pure motion. Terran's precision bordered on clinical perfection. Every one of them was pushing beyond their numbers. By the time Jouk called the final halt, the air shimmered with heat. The readouts climbed again, fractional, but real. Bash barely felt the ache this time. Only focus. Night fell slowly on the dorm level. The lights dimmed to oft amber, casting thin shadows across the bunks. The others had already collapsed into the half-leap of exhaustion. Bash sat alone, back against the wall, staring at the faint glow of the terminal across the room. SE, he said quietly. Any progress on the map? Her voice threaded through his mind, calm and near. Negative. The Atlas sectors remain under high security lockdown. Every Nexus interface attempt is traced within 1 second of contact. I can probe only during synchronization events. He frowned. You said before, portal syncing might help expand your capabilities. Correct. During post-harvest integration, the core link expands. Data channels open. Once we complete the first portal cycle, I should be able to access deeper strata. So until then, limited infiltration only. but I'll keep trying. Each sync adds fragments, patterns, subroutines. Enough of them, and the path opens. He nodded faintly. Good. Keep pushing. Focus retain, she said softly, almost like a whisper of approval. Bash closed his eyes. The red dots flared again, pulsing faintly against the dark behind his eyelids, each one a system, a world, a memory, one brighter than the rest. Emily's laughter cut through the silence, faint and far away. Thank you for reading this chapter. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a thumbs up, leaving a positive review or a comment. It truly helps a debut author like myself. As this is my first novel, I am still learning, and I would love to hear your constructive feedback to help me improve. I'll do why best to reply to your comments exclamation if you would like a better understanding of Bash's origin and family. Check out my book Before the Genesis. It tells the story of Kyle and Abby and has some lead up right into this novel. Brun Doc.